Ready for it.
Thrilled for it.
Presenting Franks with Turbo Booster Jet Engine.
Nexa.
Right, 3 teams qualified for the playoffs, 4 teams out of it. Lucknow Super Giants are closer to the latter than the former. Up against them, Sunrisers Hyderabad. And if they win today, they will take the Super Giants down with them and leave it to a straight shootout between MI and DC. That's what Monday evening has for us at Lucknow as we ready ourselves for match 61 of this year's IPL. This is Nexa Presents ESPN Cricket Info Timeout. The formidable pair of Tom Moody and Abhinav Mukund reunited for the first time since the resumption of the tournament. And for the first time, everyone on this platform is familiar with my dear colleague and friend Yash, who will now show Dustin and Matt Roller how it's done.
That's the hope. I'm used to filling big shoes usually when I'm on this couch on that side. So hopefully the same.
What is I going to say next?
He's rehearsed that line all day.
Oh, God.
Of course.
What game is it again today? Right. It's a game where the Sunrisers have won the toss in Lucknow. They're going to have a bowl first. And for the neutral, it feels like if Lucknow win today, we keep the interest in the tournament going. But it doesn't give us a lot of confidence from what we've seen that Lucknow can win today. Tom, what have you made of their season?
It's been a disappointing season for them, obviously very inconsistent. They've had, a few issues with regards to player availability, injuries. I think the auction also was a questionable auction, which also has led to the inconsistency as the season unfolds. What we do know in T20 cricket, and in particular in IPL, is that if you don't have a strong bowling unit, it's going to be very hard for you to be finding yourself in that top 4. And Lucknow do not have a strong bowling unit. And some of their bowlers that have been quite impactful in the past, like Bishnoi, for instance, have gone missing this year.
We're going to go deeper into that conversation shortly, but it's a funny one. It's an interesting team, Abhi. 5 wins out of 8. Even now, with many teams eliminated, Lucknow are still alive. And you'd be thinking, that should give them plenty of motivation. Guys, come on, we win 3 in a row and few things go our way, we could win. And yet, fair to say, none of us actually believe that this team can win 3 in a row, let alone the other results.
Coincided on the back of some incredible performances from their top 3, which we were not expecting at the start of the season, where Marsh and Markram would make a formidable duo at the top of the order. Marsh has had his best IPL season till date. Nicholas Pooran just doing Pooran things, I guess, at the start of the season. And they got lucky a couple of times. That game against KKR, where they had no business winning. They had a couple of games like against RR as well, with Avesh Khan bowling that over. So they picked up a few points where they shouldn't have. And I think that's the difference between an RR season or a KKR season versus LSG, which is why they're still in the hunt. Fair enough, that's how the league rolls. But I think they still have too many gaps to fill.
Even Pooran is missing more than hitting in the last few, which I'll come to. But since Tom's teed up bowling for the Lucknow Super Giants, all our focus, Yash, was on how Pooran might be papering over the cracks. Marsh has been awesome. Markram's turned out well. But the bowling has been a problem. Take it away.
It has. It's been quite a problem because you look at last season, which was the first time in their brief history that Lucknow did not make it to the playoffs. And the numbers show you that Lucknow were among the worst bowling sides in 2024. That average was 9th, and while the economy rank reads good at 5th, that's only marginally better than Delhi, who were the worst at 9.9 per over. They obviously did their bit to try and have a different bowling setup, but the result, as things stand, they have among the worst averages this season. They've also been among the leakiest sides. It starts right from the top. They're among the worst power play bowling sides in the competition. And it's all the more curious because when we look at the bowling depth, and they have, as just the sheer length of that graphic tells you, they keep a lot of bowlers in their setup. And some of those were high-profile retentions. Mohsin Khan, Mayank Yadav and Ravi Bishnoi were among 3 of their retained players. They cost them 25 crore.
Right.
And if you consider the returns that have come from all 3 of them. Of course, Mohsin Khan didn't make the season. That impacted their plans early on. Mayank Yadav, just the 2 games. They added the likes of Avesh Khan and Akashdeep, both of them together, around 17 crore between them. And not a lot has worked, whichever way you look at that bowling setup.
Okay, so I guess now that we've got 24 and 25 in comparison, did they not improve? Because they didn't have major overseas resources last year. Naveen Ulak, I was surprised no one went for Naveen Ulak, to be honest. But is this going, and I believe Naveen was their leading wicket taker last year.
Yeah.
So Tom, when you talk about auction table, did they get it wrong there in itself in having a shortage of reinforcements, or are they just unlucky because Mohsin and Mayank
Well, I think
couldn't make it?
I think we're looking at the wrong list, to be honest with you, because the expense of Rishabh Pant and Nicholas Pooran alone, those two players, makes it very hard to build a very strong bowling unit,
Yes.
because you just don't have the funds to do it. You can't compete at the auction table. So, look, it's, in an ideal world, it's great to have, Pooran, Miller, Marsh, Pant, all these impactful batters. At the end of the day, you've got to be able to bowl. You've got to be able to have a bowling unit that can be impactful in power play, be adaptable in those middle overs and take wickets and squeeze the opposition. And at the back end of the innings, you need people who can close the game under pressure. Take wickets, bowl those really challenging overs where you've got an opposition going hell for leather against you. And I just don't see they've got any of that.
They still had 30 crores, like Yash pointed out as well, beyond Mayank, Bishnoi, and Akashdeep.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm leaving Avesh out of that. So, and if you count Avesh, that's 40 crore. Now, Avesh has been a tick, I think we'd agree. But in 30 crore, have they paid the price for gambling on Mayank Yadav? Was Bishnoi not a smart retention? Could you have sent him to the auction and tried to fish around and try to get a Trent Bolt or a Jofra Archer or those sort of quality bowlers that we come to know in the IPL?
Look, hindsight, yeah, you can sort of tinker around with what you're doing, but generally the way they've constructed this entire team, right? Even the faith that you have placed in your Indian bowlers, like you said, Avesh is a take. But Akash has played a handful of games in the IPL. He's predominantly a red ball bowler known in this country for his red ball skills. And then over and above that, you've invested in Mayank Yadav. Again, a lot of teams get emotional about their picks. They get really emotional that we found him, we need to have him, we need to ensure that, okay, he's here. That's the same with Bishnoi. Because if you remember, when KL went to LSG, Bishnoi went with him.
Correct. Yeah.
And he was one of those, okay, from the start, Bishnoi has been with us. But why I say they've gotten lucky is because two players who've gone sort of under the radar for them, which was one retention in Ayush Bhadoni, who's had a very decent season.
Yep.
And then one guy who's played 2 games for his state side, which is Digvesh Rathi, who's turned out to be exceptional for them at 30 lakhs. And then you're investing again in a 30 lakh bowler in Prince Yadav, who, according to me, who hasn't done too badly for the kind of price. So essentially, you've sort of gone and Shardul Thakur had a couple of good games coming in as a replacement who's got a few wickets. So whatever you have done in the auction was an allocation of resource for about 30 crore like Yash pointed, which has gone a little bit to waste.
That can happen in these big auctions. Sometimes we get so much wiser after.
Oh, 100%. I in any world, if I was in that position that Justin Langer was in and the management, Zahir Khan and the ownership there, I would have absolutely kept Bishnoi and Mayank Yadav. You've got a guy that's bowls 150, and you've got a proven spinner that plays, for India off and on. So it's out of your control whether he's going to be fit, So that's out of their control. He's in good hands at the academy down in Bangalore, and you've got Bishnoi also that's been a proven performer. So if you put them back into the auction, people would be criticising you hugely, thinking, what are you doing? And it hasn't worked out for Mayank Yadav this year, but who knows? He may be, at this time next year, be the leading wicket taker.
But just on Mayank, given now that we have a sample of the last 13 months, where he came in, bowled, played in 4 games, bowled in 3 of them, was out for months, came back, played 3 T20Is, was out for months, and now again 2 games and out with another back injury. Do they not need to take a call, even if it is a hard one, on Mayank's future, given the 11 crore amount that he demands?
That's going to be the challenge. And the one thing that surprises me is how long bowlers like him and others take to come back to be fully fit. So I just wonder what's going on with the whole rehab and how it all happens. But to answer your question, I can't give you an answer because I'm not under the pressure that the management are under there with regards to that decision. But it was 11 crore, was it?
Yeah,
11 for Mayank.
Let me flip it this way. If he went back into the auction, what do you think he would go for?
But if
he would get the same price.
Exactly.
Can we be sure of that, given the
No,
fitness
but I
build-up?
think the point here is what did the main Indian bowlers go for? 10 crore Bhuvneshwar Kumar, 10 crore Mohammad Shami, 10 crore Mohammad Siraj,
8 crore Harshal
Patel. So you can get a experienced bowler who has a track record at least of fitness and body of work.
Not now.
I'm saying so that at last
That horse
year.
has bolted.
But you never know what you get. But I tell you what, when you talk about emotion, I was only thinking people that they don't release. When you mentioned KL Rahul, well, there's no emotion there. They released him.
There was
And now-
emotion of
different kind.
Different kind.
And now I wonder, a lot of people are asking me this, and I'm sure at this stage, I know there's a game at Lucknow, we'll come to that in a second. They're all asking, so Pant will go into the auction, next year? That's what a lot of people are asking. Oh, he's at such
To quote Tom, the horse is bolted. You've got to keep him for 3 years. You've got to figure out a way where you maximize that resource. But that's the only thing I wanted to add to Tom's point, because you're focusing so much on fast bowlers, but then you also want your superstar players in Rishabh Pant and Nicholas Pooran and David Miller, who've cost you almost half your purse. How can you build an entire team after that? It's according to me, a little bit of... I wasn't very happy or pleased with their squad construction.
Yeah, I mean, if they went to that table saying we'll have 4 overseas batters, I'd be very surprised. Because, I mean, time has told us that that is not necessarily what IPL winning sides have as a balance. In fact, even sometimes when you have 3 batters, it's not proven to be the template to win it. But anyway, we'll talk about Pant in just a second. For now, let's just confirm what's happened at Lucknow. Sunrisers have won the toss. Pat Cummins is back. He has decided to bowl first. There were questions on the availability of Travis Head, and we will tell you in just a moment whether he's made it or not. Let's have a look at the Lucknow team to see what Rishabh Pant has to offer. Now 3 of the overseas are there at 1, 2, 3. No David Miller. This is the batting first 11. Akashdeep returns. Ravi Bishnoi returns. And the first game for Will O'Rourke, the tall New Zealand fast bowler who has come in to replace Mayank Yadav. So those are some notable changes. And I guess it's that time of season. Everybody is on audition, perhaps.
Not everyone, but a lot of people will be, and I quite like what they've done there with regards to bringing in an overseas quick bowler. I know Will O'Rourke is, playing in his very first IPL game. He's still very young on the international stage, but one of the areas that they've seriously struggled with is with their bowling, and to strengthen that with, or hopefully strengthen that with an overseas bowler that will have his tail up. He can bowl decent pace, and I like the fact that he gets good bounce as well, is a good acquisition.
Clearly says, that they don't have the faith in Shamar Joseph, because he was there all around.
Shamar Joseph, I believe, hasn't joined back.
Yes, I understand, but he didn't play a single game till now.
Yeah.
So that clearly shows that, okay, now we're going overseas because we have a little more faith in Willow.
And 1 game last year. So
Yeah, and the thing with Joseph, that was an emotional pick. We're talking about emotion. That was the biggest emotional pick of all time on the back of a test match in Brisbane, which was a remarkable performance. But it's a different game of cricket, different format.
Our good friend Mr. Pujara, who sat there for a while, was also picked, I guess, on similar emotions at one point by the Super Kings. But yes, you're absolutely right. Yash.
On O'Rourke, what's particularly interesting is not just his first IPL gig. He's never played any franchise T20 cricket. I believe it's about 38 or 39 T20s he's played in all. That's 5 T20Is for New Zealand, 2 of which were in Pakistan. Outside of which, all 35 or 36 T20s he's played have been in New Zealand, 3 internationals, and the others in the New Zealand domestic T20s.
Oh, wow. Franchise debut for William O'Rourke.
Best swim fresh.
He's used to making an impact the first time he plays in India, though. We'll remember from the Test series last year.
Why are we talking so many test matches now suddenly?
We're already getting into season.
Preparing.
What's next? We're watching KL Rahul, Sai Sudarshan yesterday, Shubman Gill, everyone's getting ready. Yeah, all right. Let's just, I want to see that Lucknow team one more time, just to see the batting depth here. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, they've gotten rid of David Miller. in this top 6. That's the
They have
biggest
named
change.
Badoni, which is also something
They've
strange
named-
they've done previously of not naming him at times.
I think what they've done here, and a couple of other teams have played with this particular card, and that is we won't name a batsman, a seventh batsman, unless we need to, and have the flexibility in the second innings with the impact.
There is, of
They-
course, that whole...
They themselves have had a couple of games where that theory didn't work for them because Badoni came in
Yeah.
as impact sub when they were batting first with 6 batters.
It's all bringing back so
Curious.
many memories now. The amount of times we've discussed this on the couch. Why is Badoni as an impact sub coming in at 2 down or 3 down? Even if you do have that batting first impact sub, he's usually 6 or 7.
Yeah.
But Lucknow have tried something different today. Pooran has fallen off the grid in terms of form, which I'll come to in a second. Let's just look at the Sunrisers team as well. What have they got for us? No Travis Head, but Nitish Kumar Reddy returns. It wasn't a selection call. He was unwell just in that game against Delhi before the league was suspended. Kamindu Mendes is back as well. Harsh Dubey actually gets a first game, which is nice to see. He was a replacement for a replacement when he came in for Smaran Ravichandran. Harsh Dubey is the Vidarbha left-arm spinner, of course. So they've added a little bit of spin. What a lovely day to get your debut, bowling to Nicholas Pooran. Left-arm spinner Harsh Dubey. All the very best to you. And of course, Mendes is there as well. Right. That's the team
Just
for
a small
SRH.
matter, Tom, of just 69 wickets in our Ranji Trophy. 69 wickets in one season.
Correct.
For Harsh Dubey.
A joint record.
Record.
The all-time highest tally. For
See,
a
now
Ranji
I'm not
season.
talking test cricket, you're talking first class cricket.
We are talking all of that now. We're talking whites.
Okay, what are they trying? What does that tell us? Aaron Finch said the pitch is a belter. SRH have added a spinner over there, and Lucknow is known to give us different kinds of surfaces. And there's Pooran, left-arm spinner. Make sense of that?
Oh, look, I think it's, you used the word audition earlier. I think they're just having a look at a couple of players. I think it's the right thing to do. Yes, SRH, don't want to be at the bottom of the log. They want to win, but they also need to back the squad that they've got and have a look at some of the players and see how they do perform under pressure. Because, if Dubey is part of the story for Sunrisers going forward,
Yeah.
he's got to bowl to people like Nicholas Pooran going forward. It's not like, you can avoid that.
It's also sort of represents such a strange story arc for Hyderabad with respect to their spinners. Because Smaran as a batter replaced Adam Zampa when he went out. I think they've had only 2 games where they had both spinners playing, and there might have been 1 game where Rahul Chahar featured.
As an impact sub against MI, yes.
But they went to a batter to replace Zampa, and then when the batter was injured, they went to this prolific spinner. And finally, we get to see 2 spinners after a while.
Yeah.
Does this also mean that Shami doesn't feature any longer in their plans going forward as well? Because even in this game, bowling first 11, he doesn't seem to start. So clearly they've made a call on, we've given a lot of chances to Mohammad Shami, and I don't think he features in our top 12.
There is that element along with whether Shami is fully fit. I was surprised to not see him in the India A squad either. And there is some, I guess, unconfirmed info that he's perhaps not at his peak fitness. But I think it's a valid conversation because he's at least named on the bench here. But it's a valid enough point on whether Shami is one of those that SRH have made some kind of opinion on that perhaps he's not the right fit for this team.
It was a gamble to start with in the auction, wasn't it? They only went for 11 crore, is that
10.
right? 10 crore. And I felt it was a gamble purely because this is obviously a big auction and a cycle for 3 years. Shami's a very fine bowler, don't get me wrong, but are you going to have that fine bowler for 3 years? On the back of the fact that he was injured at the point of the auction, a knee injury which, was, prolonged. It was, a lot longer than what a lot of people expected.
Yeah.
So the gamble obviously didn't pay off, and I agree. I think that it may well be that they're looking to free some funds up and look in the auction or in the trade table.
Yeah, let's have a deeper conversation on Shami. Yash, take it away.
Because we try to look at the numbers and you try to identify when players come off of long layoffs, whether there's any difference in the kind of impact they're having, what's happening with their stock balls. And for Shami, his go-to, his bread and butter across formats, whatever ball he's bowling, is that shot of good length outside off-stump channel. And the numbers show you from just how different a story it is. In 22 and 23, we're looking only at the IPL. 30% of the balls Shami bowled in the IPL were on that line and length, and his returns were among the best in the league. He took a lot of wickets. He didn't let batters score, took wickets frequently. Now look at 2025. While he's still bowling it, perhaps not as frequently, almost a fourth of his deliveries this season have been on that line and length, he's gone for a lot of runs. He's not picked wickets. Is that a sure indicator of just the difference in efficiency coming back from such an injury?
My take on Mohammad Shami, his greatest strength is control, seam position, so movement of the ball going away from the right hander or into the lefty, the odd one nipping back. And the other thing is that when you speak to batters about, you're better off speaking to Abby about this, but when you speak to batters about facing him, he hits the bat hard. He climbs into the bat. And Pat Cummins is similar. You look at Pat Cummins and think, he's lively, but he's actually a lot quicker than you expect because he actually climbs into the top half of your bat. I don't think we're seeing Shami climb into anyone's bat at the moment because he's still not getting through the crease like he has done historically. Therefore, he's lost that real zip, which has been his real gold dust.
I agree. I think we've been seeing him from the Champions Trophy in Dubai. He started off well, but picked up most of the wickets in the later half of the innings, even in that game. But that zip that Tom's talking about, and you need a little bit of a helpful condition as well in terms of pitches. So 22, 23, he was predominantly playing in Ahmedabad, where you have that red soil, where you have a bit more bounce. There's a bit of a tinge of grass as well on it. But Hyderabad is one of the flattest pitches around. You need a defensive bowler. You can't have a predominantly power play specialist coming in. And I think that's where SRH sort of went too hard initially because they were too worried to wait for Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. If you look at the auction, Shami came in first and Bhuvi came in much later in the auction pool. So they had Shami, Cummins and Natarajan, which looked very, very good on paper and it worked very well for them last season. I know they've replaced Nattu with sort of a Harshal Patel. Unadkat's not had a bad season, but they need a good new ball bowler to sort of, and maybe not Mohammad Shami because those lengths don't work in Hyderabad.
What I'm curious about is how he's actually been so ineffective even outside of Hyderabad. He went to Gujarat and got hammered 48 in 3 overs. He went to the Wankhede, again a venue you think, and he was easy to negotiate there. Game at KKR as well, Bengal, he's played so much cricket there, but Shami seems to have just lost the ability to even swing the new ball or have any kind of impact in the power play, which is what he was the biggest threat for.
Well, any sport, any great, sports person, when they lose confidence, they are human. They come back to the pack. And, he's feeling, obviously, the lack of form. He's obviously feeling his body's not quite right, his rhythm's not quite right, so the confidence is not there. So therefore, what is normally in automatic mode, he's not finding at all.
If I may just add, even in Hyderabad, while there were some surfaces where we saw the 280s and the 240s being chased down, I think there was a game where Mohammad Siraj came and took 4 for 17. There were a couple of games where the seamers who are on song did manage to deliver, which perhaps goes to highlight Shami's struggles.
All right. Well, that is a challenge for Mohammad Shami. I don't know if it's a fair question right now, but at 34, I know he's the same age as me, so he'll be 35 later this year. Whether this might be actually, we may not see Shami come back to that sort of peak that we saw at GT. It's not just an injury comeback season, but are you worried that we may not have the Mohammad Shami of 22-23 again?
You never know. I think he needs to get much fitter for that.
Right.
But I think he's still got a bit of time on his hands to sort of figure out. The first thing that struck me about Shami way like 12, 13 years ago was his incredible natural ability to sort of hit that length. And what Tom was talking about, hit the bat hard. And that came very natural to him. You ask him to bowl in 2 steps, he'll still be able to hit that line and length for you. So that's a natural skill that he's got. I think fitness is a concern. And if he does work on it, you never know.
Okay. There is pressure, you think, on Mohammad Shami, but in this game, he's probably 7th or 8th highest when it comes to most pressure at the fag end of the season. Pant is probably right up there. Let's have a word on Rishabh and what these 10, 12 days of time away from the league might do. Would it be a positive influence in some ways? Would it give him even more time to reflect upon what's been on? I can't even say disappointing anymore. This is a dreadful season for Rishabh Pant, the batter.
Yeah, and for me, it all started, post-auction because, the noise around where he was going to bat. And, there was talk at one stage that he was going to open the batting. And, certainly I can't remember him opening the batting that often at all.
Yeah.
He's always been, dynamic sort of 3, 4, 5 player.
It came as a result of his poor numbers to start against spin in the middle order for very many years. So then you're thinking, right, he has to bat 1, 2, 3. And they committed 3 to 4 runs. So you're like, okay, let's go 1, 2.
Yeah, but then why do you pick Marsh and Markram up in the auction?
Yeah.
That's the whole puzzling thing. It just doesn't make sense. But yeah, look, to answer your question, the break wouldn't have certainly done any harm because being a captain, also having the form struggle, he needs to clear the head and a restart. I'm sure he's sat down and spoke to management around how to turn things around, not only personally but from a team perspective, because the reality is there's a glimmer of hope. LSG could be playing in the top, in the finals if they get it absolutely right and other people don't.
Pant, what can these 3 games mean for him? What can he do other than get any worse than those numbers on screen?
I believe that he's not got a tempo to his batting. His tempo has been lacking throughout the season. It's either been dot, or he's slogged or tried to slog his way out of form. Apart from that 160 where he looked scratchy against CSK, I don't think he's found his rhythm at all. Hopefully a couple of sessions with maybe one of the support staff where he's sort of paced his innings or try and look to pace his innings where he's got a plan. Right now it feels like he doesn't have a plan when he walks out to bat. And that's why even I was one of the first guys to say, okay, let him open the batting, let him play in the top 3 because at least then he gets to decide what the kind of plan he's going for, what the kind of score, what the tempo he's setting for the team. But yeah, Aiden Markram was a late pick in the auction, so they had to ensure that Markram and Marsh open.
I still can't believe that they opened together. I thought Markram was back up for Marsh.
Exactly, that's exactly what I thought as well. So
okay. Well, let's focus a little more on Markram and Marsh. Marsh is having some problems as his poor run. Let's break that down in our next Up Presents Power Play Conversations. Right, that's not just Pant with the bat now. Suddenly, even the bat boys in form, Marsh and Pooran, Yash, they've tapered off, haven't they?
Yeah, the top 3 who were the bulk of what Lucknow got right in the first 6 games. In those first 6 games, they had 830 runs at a strike rate of above 180. And now you look at the last 5 games, 320, that's between Marsh and Markram and Pooran, none of whom have got a score of substance. Markram does have 1 half-century in these last 5 games, but other than that, they've just completely gone off the boil.
Okay. Why? What was happening there? Even what was working isn't working. Tom, you've seen patterns like this in teams, haven't they?
Yeah, it happens when a team's not going well and there's uncertainty in a team, even though the likes of a Marsh or a Pooran, for example, are flying, if it's a sinking ship, they're going down with the ship, and suddenly their focus goes away from what they're doing in their own game and get wrapped up in the whole team situation and get distracted, and that's clearly happened to their top order.
Let's get into power play plans. Cummins bowled 3 overs against that in the power play against the Delhi Capitals in the game that was washed out and was very effective. I think he's got new ball in hand. That's the way to go, Abhi.
Yeah, and I think he's going to give the second over to Harsh Dubey.
Yep.
I have a feeling he's going to do that. That's why he's brought him in to the team. They're playing 2 specialist seamers in Pat Cummins and Ishan Malinga. So I think Ishan Malinga is more for the depth. So I think second over is going to Harsh Dubey, unless Pat knocks off his countryman.
Mitch Marsh has taken us underway with 4. So maybe Lucknow are really up for this. Who knows? All they need is a bit of spark from Marsh and Markram or even Pooran, and that should do it for them. But Sunrisers are a dangerous team. We've seen 4 of the first ball. Gentlemen, let's get first innings predictions. Forecaster is loading. Very quickly, it will tell us a number. Current run rate is 24, I can tell you, in case that's of any help at all. But yes, Abhi, why don't you kick us off?
I'm going, I feel SRH have played 1 bowler short and they've got a little bit of an experience. They're relying entirely on Cummins for this particular game. So I'm going upwards of 190. So I'll go 194.
I can tell you forecasters loaded, 191. So 194 for Abhinav Mukund. Tom Moody?
181.
181. I see that Cummins and March are also just prepping a little bit for the WTC final. just letting that go.
Has he got 3 slips there?
Nothing, hardly a difference. 19-20 between Lucknow and Lords. Yash.
I'm going to say Lucknow's highest total over here so far has been 203. I'm backing that top 3 to strike some form and keep things interesting in the playoffs race. 204.
204. So 181, 194, 204, 152. I'll wrap it up. Let's go home quickly. Let's get Wednesday in faster. Let's pull that MIDC game ahead, shall we? Anyway, join us in all seriousness at the end of the Lucknow Super Giants innings to see where the game stands on Nexa Presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout. And on our way out, though, once again, take a look at how our Fab Four are faring in our Crickcaster powered by Nexa. Ashwin Menin's filed something for us special.
Ready for it.
Thrilled for it.
Presenting Franks with Turbo Booster Jet Engine.
Nexa.
So today, I'm driving you to an IPL afternoon watch party in this Maruti Suzuki Fronx with its stylish, aerodynamic and sporty design. Now these guys are my friends, so I'm going to give you a peek into the madness that unfolds when we come together to watch an IPL match. Let's go. Guys, come on, Rajasthan's playing today?
RCB के against Chinnaswamy में.
Yeah, but Rajasthan have had such a difficult season.
हाँ यार, they've been so bad this season.
अच्छा, and KKR, so-called defending champions, वो कैसे खेल रहे हो अभी?
95 all out.
Hello CSK, bottom of the table.
Exactly. And थाला for a reason. इनकी बैटिंग फर्स्ट गियर से आगे बढ़ती नहीं है.
अच्छा धोनी का लास्ट सीजन है क्या?
I think.
You know what's incredible about this IPL? No matter how heated the arguments get today, next weekend we'll be back right here at this very place having the same passionate debates all over again.
Ready for it.
Thrilled for it.
Presenting Franks with Turbo Booster Jet Engine.
Nexa.